Yeah, we are laying up good stuff. Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Backdraft, and welcome to another episode on Create Above and Beyond. If you love the Create mod, redstone engineering, and Minecraft automation, then this is definitely the series and the mod pack for you, so be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell for notifications so you never miss when another video comes out. So in the last episode, we finally finished up Infernal Mechanisms and Abstruse Mechanisms. We also got this awesome tier armor, which is indestructible. We also got our Magic Feather and this Rending Gale, which is now enabling us to fly. So if you did miss last episode, the playlist is linked down in the description. You guys can go and check it out. So in this episode, we want to start moving forward with the quest log. So if we look at the overview, we currently are right here on the list. So we have Invar machinery going, we have our inductive mechanisms completely automated, our sync machinery, and our abstruse mechanisms completely automated. So the next step is actually in chapter 4, which we already have unlocked. So in chapter 4, the end goal is the calculation mechanism, which is actually the last mechanism that's produced in the mod pack. And to automate calculation mechanisms, the item that we are after is silicon. So there are several ways to get silicon in this pack. One of the ways that you can get it is automating all of this stuff in here. So there is ice charges and silicon compound, which requires sand, and you start off with basalt and all kinds of stuff to get you the silicon. Then when you get the silicon, you can actually convert it into printed silicon, and the printed silicon, when passed through a sequenced assembly with 2 and a flash drive under an inductive mechanism, you get calculation mechanisms. But there's actually an alternate route to get silicon, and that is through chaotic alchemy. So this is chapter 4a, which is optional, but it is technically an alternate route for you to be able to automate silicon. This is quite a crazy extra little step that you can do, and this is what I'm going to try and tackle in this episode. Not only is this a way for you to automate silicon, but it is also a way to automate all kinds of other items. So here's a brief overview of how to get started with chaotic alchemy. So there are 3 basic Invar machines that you have to build to get this going. The first one is the fluid encapsulator. So the fluid encapsulator uses molten glass to create reagents from resources. So here is an example. We have the andesite reagent, which I just kind of think of like essence of the particular item is what the reagent actually is. So with the fluid encapsulator, you combine together a millibucket of molten glass with some andesite cobblestone, and that gives you the andesite reagent. Now, some of these reagents are a bit more complicated to make. For example, the emerald reagent, you actually have to use a mixer, mix together lead and Certus quartz reagents with a particular catalyst, which we'll get into a minute, and that produces the emerald reagent, which will then give you the emerald dust, which can then be compacted into the actual item. So the next machine is the reagent extractor. This actually lets you take the item out of the particular reagent or convert the reagent into the item itself. The base chance of actually getting the item back is 75%, but this is boostable. I'm not exactly sure how it's boostable just yet. I don't know if you have to use components or whatnot, but we'll be tinkering around with that. Now for these actual catalysts, which are necessary for certain recipes, for example, like the emerald, to get these, it's a little more complicated. So there's a particular combination of reagents that you have to actually mix together and put that in front of an alchemical laser, which I'll get into in a second. But this combination, for example, for the gemstone catalyst, you have to combine reagents for 4 separate gemstones, but the combination actually varies for each world seed, which is actually pretty cool. So in the experimentation to actually get to the catalysts, you need to use the centrifugal separator to analyze those catalysts, because when you combine together 4 different reagents, if you don't find the right combination, you'll actually get, I think it's called a mundane blend or something like that, and you can dump it into here and it will actually give you clues as to what the correct combination is and how close your combination is to that. And if your brain is now completely fried, have no fear, I'm going to demonstrate how all of this works. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my hands on all of the different types of reagents. I think there's 36 total, 37 if you count silver, but I don't really know if silver is relevant right now because I want to get all of the catalysts going. And to get the catalysts, you need to experiment with the base reagents. So essentially each reagent can be created just by taking some of the original item and crushing it down into the dust. So for example, sapphire reagent can be created by taking sapphire and crushing that down into sapphire dust. Most of this stuff can actually be purchased. Sapphires actually can't be purchased, I think, so that might be one thing we might have to figure out a way to do that. So first and foremost, we need to get our hands on as much of these reagents as possible. We'll figure out which ones are the bottlenecks and then kind of see what we can do from there, but I have some grinding to do. So to show you the base process with something simple like andesite, I have this magma crucible set up where I'm dumping sand in, so we get 1 piece of sand equates to 1,000 millibuckets of molten glass. Then we're pumping that molten glass into the fluid encapsulator, so all we would need to do is put the actual dust into here and we'll get the reagent. So for example, I have this pulverizer over here. We put an andesite cobblestone into here. It will get pulverized down into that actually for andesite, I feel like such a jagweed. For andesite, you don't actually need the dust, you just need the base andesite cobblestone. So we can just dump that right into the fluid encapsulator over here, and bam, we have andesite reagents. So essentially, I'm just going to do this. I'm probably going to try to get about a half a stack of each of the reagents. I mean, some of them are going to be a little bit more difficult to get. So once again, this is the grind. I'm gonna keep going. So just from poking around with the items that we have in the storage unit, I was able to get 4 of the 6 different types of reagents completely gathered up. So we have the igneous category, the herbal category, the volatile, and the metallurgic. So the igneous is a bunch of different types of stone like granite and gabbro and diorite. The herbal is actually flowers. We were able to gather up a bunch of flowers from the nearby flower field that we have over by the village. Volatile is just, it's like mob related. I think that's kind of the best way to describe it, and a couple other things like there's nether warts and gunpowder and blaze powder and slime. And then the metallurgic is a bunch of different types of ingots. So we have iron, zinc, copper, nickel, gold, and lead. So the thing that we're going to try to do now is try to get the catalysts. So we'll start with igneous. So the igneous catalyst, once you actually get it, you can keep reusing it in recipes depending on what you're making. So for example, let's read about this. If this is unlocked, you have gathered all reagents of the igneous category. The igneous catalyst can be created by a combination of 4 reagents of this category in the alchemical laser. It's recommended to always take notes of previous results. This way it is not uncommon to find the solution in under 6 attempts. So essentially, there are 4 random ones of these in a particular combination, and they can be repeated, that create the igneous catalyst. And let me show you guys what I mean. So I'm going to grab all of the igneous ones right now, and we're going to head over to this setup over here. So the laser that it was talking about, this is what we have. So we have an Invar machine with an orange laser lamp on the front of it. For some reason, there's some sort of visual glitch. I can't actually see the lamp. All I can actually see is the lights. I don't know if any of you guys experienced that. Let me know down in the comments if there's a way to fix this. So then you have to power the lamp, which we're doing with this lever, and then once you actually punch the Invar machine with a deployer, which will happen right now, it releases a high energy beam. So we put the actual reagents into this minecart with a hopper, and when the energy beam shoots at it, it creates the alchemical reaction, and that is how we would get the catalyst once we find the correct combination of 4 of the reagents. So let's do a quick example here. So if I put 4 of the basalt reagent in here, and then I activate the high energy beam, it actually hurt me a little bit, we end up with a mundane alchemical blend. So obviously 4 basalt isn't the correct combination to get the igneous catalyst. But what we can do with this now is it says we can place it in a centrifugal separator to analyze it and see if we have any of the correct ones. But since this was all basalt, essentially what we're going to determine with this is basalt in the correct combination? So let's head over to the centrifugal separator. So we'll pop this mundane blend into the separator, and it's actually going to take a second, but it's currently analyzing this blend, and when we're done, we're going to get a specific number of ash, redstone, and glowstone dust. So what this means actually is that we have 1 of the reagents in the correct place. So for every redstone dust that you get, that means one of the reagents that you put in the combination is actually correct, but it is in the wrong place. If you get a glowstone dust, that means one of the reagents you put in is correct and is in the right place. So the fact that we got one glowstone dust, this means that basalt is part of the correct combination. So I'm currently keeping some notes in a spreadsheet, but I'm going to plop down some signs just so you guys can kind of see our progress. So I'm going to write down igneous catalyst. It doesn't fit. Catalyst. And below it, I'm going to put the ingredients. So right now, all I know is that basalt is part of it. So as we continue, we're going to try and determine the correct ordering. So like I said, the order of the reagents does matter. So for example, if I do basalt, stone, gabbro, and diorite, let's say diorite is correct, but it's supposed to be there. Like I said, when we put that mundane blend into that centrifugal analyzer, it will give us a redstone dust because that tells us that the diorite is a correct reagent in the combination, but it is in the wrong spot. Glowstone dust out, like I said, that means you have something in the correct spot and it is the correct reagent. So for the heck of it, I'm going to try this combination. I know basalt wasn't the right one, but let's just see what we get from this one so I can give you guys a secondary example. So we'll go ahead and activate the laser and we'll put this into the centrifugal separator and we'll see what we get from this. So in this case, we got 3 redstone dust, and what that means, like I said before, is that means 3 of the reagents that we used are in the combination, but they're all in the wrong spot. So if we did get glowstone dust, that would mean we have 1 in the correct spot. That's the correct reagent. So this is the method that you kind of have to do trial and error over and over in order to find the correct combination for the catalyst. So I'm going to grind this out a little bit more and I'll keep you guys posted on what we find. After a little bit of experimentation, I have determined that basalt and granite are part of it and andesite is not a part of it. So what we can do now is, since I know I'm not going to need any of the andesite, I can start just throwing this stuff away. And there's a cool trick that we can do to determine the correct position of the ingredients that we know are in it. So with basalt, for example, if I put basalt in the first one and andesite in the following 3, I know that andesite isn't in it. So I can use this method to determine the correct position of the basalt. So I can try this one and check for a glowstone output. I can check this one. I can check this combination. See, I'm just going to try a bunch of different combinations to determine the correct position of the basalt, and then we'll do the same thing for the granite. Then once we know those positions, it'll be a little bit easier for us to determine where the other ingredients are supposed to go as well. So we should only need a couple more tries, and we should be able to find the correct combination for the igneous catalyst. So a couple more experiments, and we have determined that granite is the 2nd ingredient, basalt is the 3rd ingredient, and andesite and diorite are not in the combination. So that means the combination consists of gabbro, basalt, stone, and granite. So I know granite is in the 2nd position and I know basalt is in the 3rd position. So that means the 1st and the 4th position is either gabbro or stone. So we have 2 more tries. Maybe we'll get lucky on the first one and we will determine that catalyst. So this is the first one. I think this is gabbro in the 1st position, stone in the final position. Let's test this bad boy out. And I think that was it. There we go. We got the igneous catalyst. So that's the process for getting the catalyst. So now we have to do this for the 5 other reagent types. So I'm going to go ahead and grind out the other 3 that we have. So once again, we have the herbal, the volatile, and the metallurgic. We're going to go ahead and get the catalyst recipes for those, and I'll check back with you guys when we have that ready. Alrighty, so we're now all set with all 6 of the different catalysts. So I went ahead and got the remaining reagents that we needed to do the gemstone and the crystalline catalysts, which is what we were missing. So for the gemstone, you need diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, lapis lazuli, and cinnabar. And for the crystalline, you need arcane, niter, nether quartz, apatite, certus quartz, and sulfur. So we got all of these 6 recipes, and I have them marked out on the wall over here so I don't forget them. Now, regarding how easy each of my recipes are, all of them are pretty easy because they all have items that are farmable or purchasable, except for gemstone. For gemstone, we need sapphires, and sapphires are not purchasable or farmable. So you have to go mining for these between Y level 1 and 30, and that is really annoying if we have to end up doing that. So the next step is to get our chaos catalysts. Now, to get the chaos catalyst, you have to follow the same experimental procedure that you do to get the regular catalysts, but instead of using reagents, you have to use the catalysts themselves. So a random 4 catalyst combination will yield the chaos catalyst. Now, the chaos catalyst is what we're after because mixing this with any particular reagent will actually transform it into another reagent. So for example, if we pass in, say, the fuchsia reagent with the chaos catalyst, that might actually turn the fuchsia reagent into a diamond reagent. So the idea here is we have to discover which one of them will turn into silicone, and hopefully it's one that is easily producible, because if not, then we're gonna have to go and do all of this anyway, and this whole thing would have been a waste of time. So some more experimentation I have to do to get this chaos catalyst. Like I said, hopefully we don't have to do too many with the gemstone catalyst, because I don't think I have much sapphire reagent left, maybe like 10 of it or so. So anyway, we got some more cracking to do, and I will show you guys the final product, and hopefully we get lucky. So I just tried my second combination of metallurgic, gemstone, crystal, and igneous, and we got 3 glowstone dust back, meaning that 3 of those are correct and are in the correct spot. Now, since I was only able to make 5 of each type of catalyst, well, I mean, I could make more, but I want to try to conserve as much as I possibly can. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to run that same recipe back a few times, but I'm going to introduce this glowstone accelerator. Now, what this does is you put it in the 5th slot in the hopper minecart, and it will actually tell you a random catalyst that is in the correct spot. And the way that it actually tells you is it doesn't actually consume it. So I'm going to do the exact same one that I just did. So that was metallurgic, or is that metallurgic, gemstone, crystal, and igneous. Then we're going to run this through with the accelerator in the final slot. And it actually tells us that gemstone, of course, that's in the recipe, is in the correct spot. So if we do that a few more times using the accelerator, we'll be able to determine what catalysts are in the correct spots, and it'll make it a lot easier. We won't have to make so much of them. So let's keep cracking. Okay, so using the accelerator, I have been able to determine that gemstone is the 2nd slot, crystal is the 3rd slot, and igneous is the 4th slot. Now, the first combination I tried was herbal, metallurgic, volatile, igneous, and I got 1 correct and 1 that was in the right spot from that one. And I know that igneous was in the 4th spot in that one, which means that that one was correct, and that there was one other one that was correct but was in the wrong spot. Now, herbal was in the 1st spot in that one, and that was wrong. So that means the first one has to be volatile. Now, I'm fairly certain that my logic is correct, so let's give this a shot. The only other option would be is if the first one was a duplicate of one of these 3, which is also a possibility. Let's just hope it's not the dreaded gemstone. Okay, so volatile, gemstone, crystal, igneous. Fingers crossed. Yes, we got it. So now that we have the chaos catalyst, we can now do what they call transmutation, I believe it is. So the next thing we need to find out is which one of the reagents transmutes into silicon. So armed with the chaos catalyst, you will find all manner of transmutation pairs among the reagents above. Simply put the chaos catalyst in a few jars of 1 reagent. The transmutation is lossy. So a few jars meaning that sometimes it won't actually convert it into anything. You might lose it. Put one reagent into the hopper cart and find a different reagent returned after activating the laser. Mind that the catalyst is never consumed in the process, so we always have that catalyst. One of the reagents should lead not to another known one, but to the reagent of silicon. If this turns out to be one that is reasonably accessible, you can consider choosing this path of production over the main one for Chapter 4. So, for example, if I dump in the Chaos Catalyst and we're going to put in 5 Gabbro, which is one that I don't really care to lose, and we shoot it with the laser, it should turn into another random one, and that turns into Appetites, and actually we got all 5 of them back, which is pretty cool. So I essentially have to go through and determine what each reagent transmutes into what other reagents. So it's just another grind. Let's keep on cracking. Hopefully I get a couple good ones. I'm actually hoping for a future project that we can easily farm diamonds, because the diamond reagent can be extracted into the diamond dust, and the diamond dust can actually be compacted down into diamonds. So we could make an infinite diamond farm if we get one that's reasonable. So let's get cracking. I almost forgot, if you guys are following along, once you find the transmutation pair, you know that the reverse is also true. So what I mean by that is, we know that Gabbro transmutes into Appetite. This also means that Appetite transmutes back into Gabbro. So you don't have to do as many. You should only have to do 16 reagents to find out all of, actually I think it's like 16 or 17, because you could also get the silver reagent, which isn't actually craftable, I don't think. We can actually double check that so that I don't give you false information. So the silver reagents, yeah, you can actually, yeah, you can use silver dust, but that one's just kind of a bonus one. It's off to the side over here, and you can, and also of course we're gonna get the silicon reagent as well. So this isn't going to take that long. We're just going to have to go on and grind it out. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Let's go. Okay, so I think we got lucky. We found out that lapis turns into silicon, and lapis is actually purchasable with silver, which is pretty cool. So we can get the silicon no problem, or we could actually mix together nickel and nether quartz. It's probably easiest to just purchase the lapis and then transmute it into the silicon. That actually will be super simple. But the crappiest part about this whole thing is, as far as my math is concerned, I believe diamonds and sapphire are the transmutation that we're stuck with here. Let me just triple check this. Yeah, so sapphire turns into diamonds. Diamonds turned into sapphire. That sucks. I was hoping to have a massive diamond farm. I don't know if we'll be, I have no idea if we'll be able to do that now. So actually, how do you craft sapphire? Is this simple? So copper and arcane. So arcane, we can transmute from lead, which we can buy, okay. And copper, we can buy that too, if the need arose, but we can also transmute it from cinnabar, which we can also buy. So, I guess it's not the end of the world. So as a side note, I had a future project in mind, and it looks like we're getting raided, that required 70,000 diamonds. So I'm going to try to set up a super fast diamond farm. Not sure if that'll be in this episode, but yeah. But anyway, we now have our transmutation for silicon, so let's get cracking on that. So I now have a similar setup to what I did with the feathers over here. I set up a purchase for lapis. I actually swapped out the diamond purchases because we're not going to really need many of those, and like I said, we have a project planned where we're going to be farming up a ton of those anyway. So we're farming up the lapis, we're dumping it into this ender chest down here, and we're feeding it into the contraption inside of the base that is now producing silicon reagents. And this, my friends, is the contraption I am talking about. I'm actually pretty proud of how much I was actually able to compact this, so I'm going to try and explain exactly what's going on here. So we have an igneous extruder, which is done using zinc machines. Essentially, it's just got lava and water on either of the two sides, and it is producing cobblestone. The cobblestone has been then being fed into this pulverizer, and the pulverizer, when you pulverize cobblestone, has a chance to produce gravel, flint, and or sand. The sand is being siphoned off into this drawer over here along with the flint. The additional is just getting voided. And then the gravel that's produced is actually being fed into another pulverizer, which pulverizes the gravel down into sand if we didn't produce any from the first step. Then the sand is being fed into this magma crucible over here, which is melting it down into the molten glass that we need to get the reagent. So I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but I had some kind of a glitch with the molten glass coming out of the magma crucible, so it was getting fed into this fluid encapsulator over here where we're actually making the lapis reagent, and once it actually emptied out completely, it wouldn't feed any more into it. It was super weird. Like, it wasn't able to, oh, a little bit of lag there. It wasn't able to actually take it out of the magma crucible, but I fixed that by putting a fluid cell above the magma crucible and then feeding the molten glass into that and pumping it out of the fluid cell instead of the magma crucible. Kind of an odd little bug. Let me know if you guys have experienced that down in the comments. So here's where the other ender chest with our lapis is. We're feeding that lapis into a pulverizer over here and producing lapis dust. The lapis dust is then being fed into the fluid encapsulator where it is getting bottled up into the reagent. Then the reagent is actually being taken out and fed over here into the minecart with a hopper, which is buried under that little area over there. So this was kind of difficult to come up with a way to do this because a minecart with a hopper, you can't put like any sort of funnel or chute or any other type of thing underneath it that would suck items out of it. So I have just a plain old vanilla item filter here, which is filtering out the silicon reagent and feeding it down here into this drawer. So inside of the hopper minecart, we have our chaos catalyst. The lapis is being fed into it. And we have our lasers set up over here, which I actually have connected up. The deployer is actually connected up to a speed controller down there, which is on the absolute slowest setting, 1 rotation per minute. So we get a pulse about once every 18 seconds, and that is enough so that we can keep up with the lapis that's being fed into it, and so that lapis doesn't actually get backed up in here. So we get about 10-15 lapis between each pulse, and then that is plenty of time, whatever gets converted into the silicon reagent, to get sucked out by the item filter. Let me know if you guys have any questions about this, or if you'd like to use this contraption yourself, let me know, and I can send you the schematic. So that is Chaotic Alchemy completely done. I'm glad we were able to do that. So now if we go back into Chapter 4, we now have this extra little branch over here, so we don't have to deal with all this crap to get silicon. So I think that's about all the time I have for this episode. Chaotic Alchemy is actually really fun. Once again, if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments, or if you're interested in anything that I've done, I can send you schematics. Once again, if you guys were able to follow this guide and complete Chaotic Alchemy on your end, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications. I'm trying to produce at least 1 video a week. I create above and beyond, so stay tuned for future videos, and be sure to leave a like as well and share with your friends. I will see you guys again. Take care. Bye-bye.